think the best investors and business owners, they don't treat networking as literally, you're told to do it, I'm going to do it, and I'm just going to tick the box. Welcome to the Property Mindset Podcast, where I'm Emma Howitt, mentor, investor, and your guide to building wealth, freedom, and personal transformation through property. Property is never just about bricks and mortar. It's about people, conversations, relationships, and the rooms you choose to walk into. So that leads us on nicely to today's episode, which is Beyond Business Cards, How Networking Really Grows Your Property Business. And I believe this is because, every investor and business owner eventually kind of asks the same questions. Is networking actually worth my time? Am I in the right rooms? And how do I turn conversations into actual opportunities, not just a pile of business cards on your desk? So let's turn dreams into actions and actions into success. So let's start with the real question. And let's be clear, this is absolutely not a debate about whether networking is good or bad. It's more the question of what kind of networking actually moves the needle for your property in your business, and what kind of networking actually just drains your energy and just doesn't work for you. So traditional networking often looks like this. You kind of show up, you stand around, you swap cards, you might get to do a 30-second, 60-second, and then you kind of go home wondering if, the phone might call and anything might come of it. But I think the best investors and business owners, they don't treat networking as literally, you're told to do it, I'm going to do it, and I'm just going to tick the box. That is not at all a positive way to do it. But you actually treat it as part of the strategic growth of your business. So good networking, and these are all examples of people I know who have done these things. So good networking can give you deals, multiple deals from networking. JV partners. I found deals from networking, JV partners from networking, power team connections. Absolutely. In fact, all of my trades have generally come from networking. You can find clients, you can find collaborators, you can find mentors, you can find critical friends. And equally, you can get confidence, clarity. And the biggest thing is that you can have a kind of reminder that you're not doing this alone. And I mean, I've heard this banded about, but when I looked it up, it said that it was Porter Gale who said, your network is your net worth. And that absolutely, whoever you surround yourself with you tend to be the average of that. But to add an extra twist, if we say your intentional network is your net worth, then the people you invest in and who invest in you gives you your result, basically. And it definitely isn't about, how many people you can have hundreds of thousands of people in your social media network. But I know I'm I'm terrible for this. Like, people will say, "Oh, I see so and so on LinkedIn," and I'm like, "Really?" That was just another one that somebody had asked me to connect, and I was like, "Yeah, that seem like somebody I'd like to connect with," but I'd never met them. I don't actually know them. So it's about how many people know you, trust you, and actually would happily put your name forward when opportunities do appear. And certainly not all rooms are equal. And there are many different types of networking events. And certainly I don't think I ever met anyone who said, "Oh, I definitely do not think networking is any good." everyone goes, "Oh, I better go and do some networking." And then it's just kind of like a thing that you're supposed to do. You find one that's local. Maybe you know somebody who's gone before and you rock up. But it's really important to look at what are the different types of rooms and what would work for you, especially with your goals. And we're going to talk a bit about that later. So you've got property specific networking. I'm sure you would have heard of PIN, so property investor network meetings. You've got PPN, that's progressive property networking events. You've got property and poppadoms. I mean, that's been popping up all over. And those are really great. So certainly PIN, PPN, they come from a educational background. So inherently they want to build community, but they're also selling courses and education. Property and poppadoms, again, they've got, their main person is, sells mortgages and things like that. So there's generally reasons behind these, but they all come with different things. I love a property and poppadoms because I don't mind a curry. And I like PIN, I like PPN. I don't mind standing around chatting to people. I do love sitting around a table having a curry. That really works for me as well. So, what are these good for? So, definitely understanding strategy. So they're great. You get amazing, incredible speakers who tell you about perhaps strategies you've never heard of or strategies that you'd like to do. Just a whole host. It could be deal flow. So you might meet people who are selling and massively learning from other investors. So you often get people who are really kind of long in the tooth. They've had massive success and they might now be kind of selling up. They might be, just winding down, but they've still got loads of life, loads of energy, and they just love helping others because they've got, let's say, 30, 40 years of experience. And those are, the absolute gems to find. Go and find them and just listen to whatever they have to say. Because these are people that have been there and done it and seen multiple government changes, all the things that happen, they've seen it multiple times. But they're also great places for you meeting joint venture partners, deal sources, and it may be meeting people who are just that little bit further ahead than you, but on the same path. So really amazing. But equally, these, it can become a bit of sort of an echo chamber if these are the only rooms that you've ever attended. So again, they're all fantastic and you get massive benefits from them, but are there other things that you can do? So then you have other sort of slightly more niche communities. So I'm really fortunate to be a host for Hard Hats to Heels. And that is a room specifically built for women in property construction and business. And so but also you can have particular regions, you can have particular niches. And what I find that these kind of more regional, more niche networking events, they can often come with deeper conversation, perhaps a stronger sense of belonging. It really feels like you're part of your network. And potentially the freedom to talk a little bit more honestly about where you are and perhaps where you want to be. I certainly found, I mean, I've got some amazing ladies that come to my Hard Hats to Heels in East Sussex. Um, and people, well, the women there have been incredibly open about their confidence. They've been really raw about their money stories. Um, really sharing personal information about their career transitions. And that kind of conversation doesn't always feel like you can be so open in those kind of more traditional, perhaps mixed networking environments. Then you have general business networking. So just because you are building a property business, do not forget about other business networking groups because those are amazing. And also, you can be the expert. So if no one else is doing property in that room, they start to look at you as the expert in property. And that can be incredibly powerful. You can also meet, obviously, accountants, brokers, marketeers, web designers, trades, consultants. I mean, these are people who help you run a real business. And remember, property is a business. It's not just deals, it's running a business. And each of these types of rooms will give you something different. And as Dale Carnegie, got to mention this, I'm like, I can't go through without mentioning Dale Carnegie, who reminds us about how to win friends and influence people. And business, property, it still comes down to human relationships. And the trick is to choose rooms where the relationships for you actually have space to grow. So, what does good networking really look like? It usually has a few key ingredients. So, absolutely. You've got to feel safe enough to be honest and not just polished. If we were all perfect at every networking event, I'd never have gone networking. I mean, literally, it's kind of like, oh, I'm not really sure what to say. I'm really hoping that, people are kind. You may never have stood up and spoken in front of people. People are terrified to talk. But, you want to go to a networking environment where you feel that you can at least talk to some people. People tend to be, really lovely. If you walk into a room and you're stood there thinking, oh, I'm Billy No Mates, people generally are, really, really welcoming. Um, and people really offer to help because they genuinely want to. Those are the kind of environments. And, it's not just because there's a referral target to hit. You want to know that people genuinely want to give you business or genuinely really believe in what you're doing. And if they know somebody who could help you, they're happy to introduce you. And a key is you want to leave with deep connections, perhaps just a few people that you made a really great connection with rather than lots that you just had some noise with. So, a bit of an example is we've got a professional photographer at my Hard Hats for Heels, East Sussex. And obviously, the idea is that we want to capture, strong, confident images of women in property and business. And obviously, we want to use them on our social media. We want to share with them. And also, I think it's a really great thing to highlight our photographer, who is a property photographer. And so it's reminding people that all of these elements are part of your business. So I really like to share the photos, and I'll kind of give people some social media content so they can send them out. And I definitely got some feedback like, "Oh my gosh, I don't feel good enough for those posts." And I'm the same. I saw a few of them and went, "Oh my gosh, I look horrific." A lot of kind of self-criticism about weight, age, do I look professional enough? Um, and, that really could be the end of it. But what's important is in our environment, we were able to show that vulnerability. We were able to show how uncomfortable we feel. And actually, so many of us want to hide and not be out there doing public facing things. Um, but what was amazing is the feedback. I mean, even for me, I was kind of like, "Oh my god, those look horrific." And one of the responses were, "Wow, that you look, I can't believe you think like that. You look really great. You look really powerful." I can't remember the exact words. But other people, we saw each other as capable, credible, beautiful, inspiring. And, in that networking event, that was somewhere where us women could be really raw and real, and a place where we could challenge those doubts, and a place where kind of stepping into the photo, so to speak, and sharing it would become part of stepping into a better and bigger version of ourselves. Obviously, you're not going to get that in every room, and you don't always get that at a breakfast meeting, where you've got your 60 seconds and you're racing through your pitches. But Brené Brown says vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. I'm going to read that again. So it's pretty cool. Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. If you're ready to take your property journey to the next level, check out my Property Success Mindset Formula. It's a course on Udemy, and inside you'll discover actionable strategies and exercises designed to shift your thinking, boost your confidence, and help you navigate property challenges with clarity. Whether you're just starting out or looking to break through to a new level, this course delivers the mindset tools professional investors use every day. Visit the link in the show notes to unlock your property potential. Your biggest asset is not just your portfolio, but the way you think. The best networking spaces allow kind of just enough vulnerability for real change to happen. And not all of them are going to be like that. There are some places where it's, very professional, very kind of straight down the line. And those are perfectly fine. And you get great responses from that. But it's looking at what mix do I want? What is the kind of room that I would like to build relationships in? And whether that is, in your property business or you want a mix of both, which is usually the healthiest. So, why property people need both property and business networking? So, why is it that you can like to have both? I mean, the main reason is, property networking definitely gives you that kind of property background, especially others who have done it before you, who are much more experienced, or who are behind you, and you can help them as well. Because I find that when I'm helping others, I mean, these podcasts are really cathartic for me because they're often things that I know I should be doing and perhaps I've let go. And it's the same, with networking. You know that there are potential deals to be found. There's JV partners. You're going to be meeting letting agents, sources, other investors that are just incredible knowledge. You might find of a new mentor. You might find of a new course, market insights. I mean, things like that. You just don't necessarily have time yourself to check them out. Um, Strategy ideas, a new way of, I don't know, running an HMO. And the stories that you hear from other people doing sort of similar projects or projects that you aspire to is really, really powerful. So, you're probably going to hear about buy, refurbish, refinance, flips, HMOs, commercial conversions, whatever is the thing at the moment, that is potentially what they're going to be talking about. So, what is working now for you in different towns? What is in your area? What can you find in property networking that is worth giving it a try? And I always say, see what's available, see what's convenient. And definitely, if you're starting out, visit a load and feel the ones that you kind of gel with. And there's no point just going once. If you really want to build these relationships, you've got to keep going back again and again. And that's when the power really, really comes through. So what might you get from business networking? So definitely this is all about your power team, your infrastructure. But again, it's learning. Like there's so many things in business that we just don't have any ideas of. And there's always a nugget that comes out. It might be from an accountant, a financial advisor, brokers, branding, I mean, websites. I mean, anyone with social media, we've got to talk to those, especially when you're not young and it's a natural thing for you. And it might be your operations support. And we must just keep thinking, property is a business. It's not just a series of properties. So you do need systems, you do need cash flow management, you do need client care, you need leadership just as much as a good deal. And especially when you start, making teams as well. These things are really important. How do you deal with staff, even if it's, even if they're abroad? So I think if you only go to property events, you really risk just remaining in this kind of bubble where everyone knows the yield, but nobody kind of really knows how to brand themselves or how to create systems. And equally, if you only go to business events, you're going to miss out on that kind of really specialist knowledge and, contacts that a live property specific room brings to you. So, what really happens when you kind of consciously build a mix and perhaps, and these are really sensible, but perhaps one or two property focused networking events and one or two business focused networking events. And perhaps within those, you might want to do, slightly niche, whatever feels right for you. But it's got to be kind of a value led, something that works for you and something and some place where you feel fully yourself. So I absolutely love Hard Hats to Heels community. It's lots of obviously women supporting each other. I absolutely love that. It's a very different environment to perhaps a PIN or a PPN, or we have other or property and pop I absolutely love attending those, but it's a different feel and neither is better or worse. They both offer incredible opportunities. And as Keith Ferrazzi puts it in Never Eat Alone, networking is about building a community around your goals. It's definitely not just turning up and hoping that something sticks. So, what are the real wins in networking? And we touched on this earlier. It really is intentional networking. And it comes from clear goals. Oh my gosh, I'll go into this a bit more, but so, so important. What do I want to get? Why am I going? Why have I got somebody else looking after the kids tonight? What is it that I'm giving up my evening for? And definitely the right mix of rooms. And, don't feel like you have to stay in the same one. If it doesn't feel right for you, go and find others. But there has to be a real genuine interest in others. And most importantly, you absolutely have to follow up. So before you go to your next event, it is about kind of asking yourself, so number one, why am I going? Okay, now when you're very first starting out, you might just want to rock up and just see what they're like, and that's perfectly fine. But you really need to have a purpose, a reason as to why you're going. Is it to find out more about a strategy? Is it because you have no idea where to start with social media? Is it that you really need a JV partner? Do I want to learn? Am I building my power team? Or is it kind of helping me to build my confidence, to build my visibility? And all of these are really valid. It might be just, I'm just terrified of going in the room. Just getting in there is a win. And I've had that. One of my mentees went to a networking event and couldn't walk in, actually literally couldn't go in. And there's lots of people who, tell hilarious stories of, stood in the corner, just terrified to speak to anyone on a phone, pretending to be talking to somebody, and then the phone goes off. I mean, hilarious what people will do. So whatever it is for you, your reason for going is your reason, and just make sure it's really valid for two. So number two is, what does a win look like? So we can have a goal, but what do you want your win to look like from this evening? Is it literally two meaningful conversations? Is it a potential future collaboration? Is it as simple as I need to speak to two brokers, two mortgage brokers? All of these things can, be in that room, and you can be very specific. And I advise people on, there's always somebody kind of letting you into the room. Ask them specifically, tonight I am looking to speak to these type of people, and get them to point out to you, because there's nothing worse, is there, than having spoken to someone for 20 minutes and thinking, oh, this person just is not the person that I need to speak to tonight. You don't want to be too rude, but you've got goals. It's a limited time. They're perfectly nice people, but you want to be really specific in who you're going to go and talk to. And then number three, massive, massive. We're always told, and we all fall down with it at various times, but what am I going to do to follow up? Is it a voice note? Is it a physical, going and meeting them for a coffee? Is it a Zoom? Or is it just a simple message saying, I really enjoyed our conversation last night about so and so? Again, these are things that you need to be asking yourself before the event. But it is so, so key. As we know, the fortune is in the follow up. And you can have just a card on your desk. That is literally it. Just a piece of paper on your desk. But a relationship in your calendar is where the growth is going to happen. And again, whether, I know a lot of people, it's all about, oh, you must have a coffee, but I'm still a huge fan of Zoom. I literally live miles away from anywhere. So I prefer that unless I'm obviously going somewhere. So whatever works for you works for you, and just, live by that. So if you'd like a book that supports this way of thinking, you've got The Go Giver by Bob Berg and John David Mann. And this is really a brilliant reminder that most kind of successful people are often those who lead with value, with generosity, and with genuine connection. And that is absolutely what you're looking for. So here's just a practical takeaway. Before your next event, remember, am I the right kind am I in the right kind of room for the results that I want? And then think about giving. Who could I support or connect with? Not just what can I get? And then what is the one follow-up or action that I can definitely take within 24 or at the longest 48 hours of this event? So if you are in property and business, have a think. What kind of rooms are you going to be in? Is it going to be more property specific events? Is it going to be more general business events? And, if it really resonates with you, start going to those niche events. For me, I chose to be a host of Hard Hats to Heels because I see the results from it. And I really love helping other people. And those are the places where you could potentially be more honest. But once you build relationships, you can do that wherever you are. So if this episode has helped you see networking differently, I would recommend listening next to episode 43, 3 things you can control when life feels uncertain. It is a really great follow on because strong networking is much easier when you focus on what you can control. So your action, your mindset, and obviously that will enable you to show up in the room in the right way. So as always, if you know someone who keeps going to events and saying, oh, I'm not sure this is working, then please do share this episode with them. Sometimes one shift in how you approach networking is literally all it takes to change the opportunity that show up over the next decade. So remember, property success isn't just about what you buy. It's about who you become and who you build around you. Property rewards clarity, it rewards connection, and it rewards people who are brave enough to step into the right rooms and stay long enough to build real relationships. And always remember, your mindset is your greatest property. Keep building it.